Hello, and welcome to Bio 161, Introduction to Cell and Molecular Biology. I'm your instructor, Dr. Mallory Greenlee Walker. You should watch today's introductory video, but usually you'll be given the option to either do reading or watch pre-recorded mini lectures as a way to prepare for class. In today's first video, I'm going to explain why we're studying cell and molecular biology, the approach we will take in understanding cell molecular biology, or the way and order I'll present the content. I'm then going to explain the teaching mechanism that I'm going to use to present the material to you, and I'll end by giving you a tour of our Canvas page. So, what does a California redwood tree, a baby, and a bacterial pathogen have in common? This is not a bad joke. You may be thinking nothing, but in fact, these are all living things. And because they are living things, that means that they are made up of cells, or in the case of a bacterial pathogen, made up of a single cell. Cells are the basic unit of life, and they can acquire energy, communicate, reproduce or divide, respond to external stimuli, and over many generations, they can evolve. And at the level of a single cell, we're going to look at, in this class, how these processes occur normally and how they might be disrupted in disease. So as you learn more about the components of a cell or processes in a cell, you'll be able to take future coursework that will extend this knowledge to modern applications, including something like nutrition. And so in this class, we're going to look at how cells metabolize carbohydrates in a process called cellular respiration. And they use these carbohydrates to make energy. We'll also look at, for example, how plants harvest energy from the sun to make plant carbohydrates. And these cellular processes are key aspects of nutrition and might be perturbed in malnutrition and obesity. Other modern applications include things like vaccines and infectious disease. This is something that my research is interested in. Food science, the creation of genetically modified food, as well as food insecurity. You might also be interested in forensics and how it's applied to criminal justice. You might be really interested in biomedical engineering and biotechnology. Maybe you're a biomed major. Maybe you're interested in stem cell transplantation, cancer, fertility, or infertility. So there hopefully is something in this list that interests you and can motivate you to stay excited about this topic throughout the quarter, no matter what your major is. So the next thing I want to describe is how we'll cover the content in this class, or the order in which we'll cover content. And so we're going to begin as the book does, which is to take an interdisciplinary look at the macromolecules, really at the submicroscopic level. And when I say macromolecules, I'm referring to proteins, nucleic acids, carbohydrates, and lipids. And when we look at these macromolecules, we're going to be applying chemical principles to analyze the behavior of these molecules in a cell. And we're particularly interested in bonds that form and how these macromolecules interact with water. We're also going to apply the principles of physics, particularly the principle of energy conservation and the laws of thermodynamics, to predict the behavior of molecules inside a cell, or the way in which molecules move in and out of the cell. And then finally, as we look at each one of these macromolecules, we're going to relate the structure of the macromolecule to its function. We're then going to move into the cell and analyze the functions of a cell. And so a lot of these functions are the traits of living things. So we're going to look at how cells acquire energy, either through the process of metabolism and then in plant cells through photosynthesis. We're also going to look at organelles. Organelles are unique to eukaryotic cells, and these are cells with a nuclei. And we're going to look at the specialized function of organelles. And then we're going to look at how some proteins move through organelles or move out of the cell. We'll also look at how cells are able to communicate with each other, as well as how cells reproduce and divide. We're going to move up from that microscopic level into traits that are visible to the naked eye. And we're going to consider how heritable genetic information gives rise to the diversity of life. And so when I'm talking about the diversity of life, I mean how living things are quite different from each other, like we just looked at. So the difference between a human and a koala versus a succulent. We're going to examine the chromosomal theory of inheritance and then end with looking at the central dogma. So how is this heritable genetic information converted into an intermediate, which is RNA, and then turned into a protein? And for the most part, proteins are what does the work inside a cell. So this is going to be kind of an overview, a big picture overview of how we're going to cover material in this class. And I'll come back to this diagram multiple times, or a simplified version of this diagram multiple times throughout the course, just to check in and give you the big picture of what we're working on. Okay, so next topic is the teaching mechanism in which I'm going to use to present the material. So one thing that we know as instructors is that we are preparing you to enter the workforce or to enter a professional program. And employers in professional programs are expecting non-science competencies on day one. So this is something I grabbed from the American Medical Association, and these are some traits that they're looking for in their students. So they want you to be able to have social skills, engage in teamwork, be good at communicating, are reliable, resilient, adaptable, and have a capacity for improvement. And so this suggests to me that we have to have practice at adapting to new situations and opportunities to engage in oral communication and in teamwork. And luckily our labs at Cal Poly help this, but we can do more in lecture. There are also a whole bunch of studies that shows that there are types of instruction that improve student engagement, improve and increase a higher level of learning, as well as improve retention in various majors. And so those instruction methods include things like increased course structure and things. So that means things like including materials to prepare in advance of class and having multiple quizzes throughout the class. Increased active learning. These are solving problems in lecture, in class, with an instructor. These help learning and retention. And then the use of varied teaching methodologies. So this might be using a case study one week and using modeling another week, and then using a chart to compare, or a Venn diagram to compare pathways the week after that. These same techniques in teaching can also reduce an achievement gap. And so an achievement gap just means not everybody may be starting in an introductory class on the same footing, and we want to make sure everybody gets to that same level. And so with this in mind, this is why I'm going to teach this class in this flipped format. So let's take a look at what that might look like. So here's how we're going to approach this class. So for every class, you're going to prepare. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this can be reading from the text and or watching these mini lectures. To help you with this material, you can also take notes, and there's two ways to take notes. There will be fill-in-the-blank PowerPoints available, or these note-taking guides, and you can see what works for you, or you can use your own note-taking method. And it's expected that you prepare between 2 and 3 hours for each class. After you watch or read, you're going to take a readiness test. And these are daily timed tests that are just going to test your recall and retrieval of information. And it's going to be largely focused on where those note-taking guides or the fill-in-the-blank questions or parts of the PowerPoint are guiding you to focus on that material. Your 2 lowest readiness tests can be dropped. And so this includes both excused and unexcused absences. And then once you're done with preparing, we're going to come to lecture. So we're switching from green to white. and we're going to do application. So we're going to apply the material. We may have some mini lectures to kind of get you into the topic and get you thinking about it again, but we're going to do a lot of applications. So these might be things like think, pair, share. We might do modeling. We're going to see a lot of different ways of the material being presented. As a way to wrap up, I'll always go over the answers to the activities, and then we're going to have a learning catalytics. So this is an online response system, and so I'll ask some questions. You can talk about it with your peers, and then answer these questions. A portion of these will be graded on correctness, and a portion will be graded on participation. And so you can do these in class and work with partners, or you can do these asynchronously or synchronously online. And then after lecture, we're going to have homework. You're going to have homework. This is going to be these dynamic study modules. So you'll be assigned 1 or 2 of these a week. We'll also have some practice tests. The goal of the practice test is to get you ready for exam style questions. And they should be taken alone, and we'll talk more about these all throughout the quarter. And then every once in a while, we're going to have these spot checks on the activity guide. So you'll turn in your notes from class, and then they'll be returned to you. And this should take about 1 or 2 hours per class that you're practicing or studying the material. Okay, so this is how we're going to approach the class. I understand that this learning experience, especially at first, may feel a little bit bumpy. And this could be true for multiple reasons. 2 examples are here. So being presented with new situations can induce a cortisol spike, and this might make you feel stressed in class. Or the thought of discussing something with your peers may make you feel anxious. So I'm aware of this. And so here are some tips to overcome these challenges. Sleep and eat well. So come to class feeling good and having energy to do work and think. Also schedule time in your busy week to prepare adequately. So the content will be available usually a week before class, and so make sure you're scheduling that time to prepare. Organize your notes so that you can find information quickly in class if you haven't practiced your recall yet. So make sure you bring a laptop or a tablet where you can easily pull up those notes. When you're doing a problem and you're stuck, you've just been presented with a new problem, start with what you can recall about the topic. So if you're doing a problem about proteins, start by just recalling that proteins are made of amino acids. And then ask for help to break down the problem. So you can ask your peers, right? We're always going to be doing group work. You can ask your peers for help, or you can ask me. And so a way you might ask is, how did you start this? Or if you're at the end, how did you get that answer? And if you can't quite understand that, ask, can you explain it another way? And then ask questions in our wrap-up time during lecture, or follow up with me after class and during office hours. So we'll talk more about this as we go through these activities. I'll facilitate kind of other ways to solve a problem so that a lot of people can get and can hear different ways that they might solve a problem and kind of build a deeper understanding of this biology. Okay. So that's what I have to say about the class and the mechanism that I'm going to use to teach the class to you. And I now want to give you a brief tour of our Canvas page. Okay, so here is your course Canvas page. And this is the landing page that we're on right now. This is a really convenient spot to find my email and office hours, a quick link to the syllabus and the course schedule. But more importantly, what I want to point out is that this course is organized by modules. So let's come over here and click on the modules. So in the modules, we have this module called Welcome and Course Information. This is where you'll find, again, that welcome page, a little bit information about me, the course syllabus that's required reading, some class policies, and logistics, and the course schedule. This includes when your midterms and final exams are scheduled, all the assignments for the quarter, if you want to put that in your calendar right away. So let's briefly click on this course syllabus link. And so in this course syllabus link, you'll find, again, my email, office hours, required material for the course, a description, and then if you scroll down here, these are going to be the assessments for the course and how those assessments contribute to your final grade. So daily quizzes are worth 10%, learning catalytics and worksheet checks are worth 5%, and the homework and practice tests are worth 10%. And then midterms, final exam, and the lab make up the rest of your grade. And then below this assessment chart here is a description of a more detailed description of the various assessments and where there is grace in those assessments. So this is definitely worth reading, especially if you miss a quiz. So for quizzes, the 2 lowest quiz scores will be dropped, and this includes days missed due to excused and unexcused absences. And the quiz, because we go over them in class, none of them can be accepted late. For learning catalytics, I will also drop the 3 lowest, so 3 in this case. But none of them can be accepted late because we talk about them during class. For the worksheet checks, these can be accepted late. And then scrolling down, the DSMs, due to the nature of those assignments going through mastering, they can't be accepted late. So you definitely want to start these earlier in the week and stay on top of them. And as we settle into the routine of the class, I'll give you lots of reminders that your DSMs are due. And then finally here we have practice tests, and so these will also contribute to that homework grade, and then your lab. And so just a little bit of information there, but you'll want to refer to your lab syllabi for expectations in that portion for this portion of the course. So I'm going to navigate back to modules and scroll down a little bit here. Okay, and so what we're looking at here is another module that has resources and extra information. This talks more about our class format, where to find technical help. This is a really useful link that Dr. Keeling and I worked on about studying suggestions. So how do you study for Bio 161? So this is definitely worth looking at and reading, and I'll talk more about it as we approach the first midterm. Here's a link to my policy on accessibility. So in general, I hope that this class is accessible to everyone. And if I've unintentionally overlooked something that limits your access, please reach out and I'd be happy to work with you. Here's my policy on classroom civility. And then this is a link to student services and basic needs. If you or anyone you know at Cal Poly is having difficulty accessing housing or food or other student services, this is really helpful links, but you're welcome to reach out and I'm happy to help you navigate these services. Okay, and then moving on here, each week will be organized by modules. So week 1, we have chemical foundations and proteins, and we have materials for day 1 and day 2. And then under those materials, we'll have the homework that's due. So we have 2 chapter DSMs, and then these skills DSMs that will appear in the first 2 weeks. And so these are due on Sunday at 6 p.m. And again, I'll give you lots of reminders, but they're right here. And so you want to start them early. So let's go ahead and click into day 1 materials. Okay, so here we have day 1 materials, and I'll let you navigate all of these on your own, but this is where you'll find the assigned reading and the videos. So you can choose either one of these to do, except that for this week, you have to read the syllabus, and I highly recommend everyone watches this introductory video. And then over here, you'll find these tools. And so these are optional ways to take notes before class. So we have this note-taking guide here. So if you click on this, you'll download a Word document that asks you questions that go along with the reading. And so you can just type in the answers. And then for over here, we have these PowerPoints that I use for the lectures, for the video lectures. And so you can click on these and they're fill in the blanks. So I've taken out the text, which are the important areas for you to focus on. And so you can write in the notes for that. So what you don't want to do for the videos is pause the videos and write down every single word that I say. That's not really an effective way to take notes during a lecture. And so you want to treat it as a lecture and just kind of write down the key points or circle key parts of the figure. And this will make sure that you're using your preparation time effectively. And then here we have the link to the quiz. So once you've gone through this material, you can click on this readiness quiz. It's always due before the start of class. It is open note and open book. The most effective way to take this quiz is to study a little bit that material that you prepared and then take the quiz, but you're always allowed to go back and open your notes and read through them. You want to complete the quiz on your own and do not discuss it with other students because the goal is to test your readiness for class. And then the last thing to comment on the quiz is do not take screen captures or images of the quizzes in class because these are examination materials. I won't post the quiz question answers after class because these are recall questions on the quiz and they're not particularly useful study materials. So our midterm questions will be more application based. And so when you are studying, you really want to be studying what we're doing in lecture. And that's here in the activity guides. So before class, you want to download these and either save them on a tablet and or print them so that you can take notes onto the worksheet, and then these will be collected randomly for points. And then after class, I'll try to post in some of these extra resources. So maybe slides from a mini lecture, or if there's a really helpful animation on YouTube or active studying suggestions, I'll go ahead and post it down here. So you can always refer to that when you're studying. So that's it for this video, and prepare for class. And I look forward to meeting everyone on day one. Thanks. Bye.